Hi there. My name is Kenyatta Turner. I am so excited that you are here for this workshop where we are going to be speaking about behavioral motivation. Motivation is a big word. We're going to talk a little bit about what that word means to you, to your organization, to your business and your life, to your family. It's a word we hear all the time. Get motivated, stay motivated, be motivated, find your motivation. But what actually does that mean? Who's actually responsible for motivating you? And how do you find that? That's the kind of thing we're going to talk about today. I am so excited. I'm going to share my screen right now so we can jump right into it and talk about behavioral motivation. This is key in your development, the growth of yourself and your business. If you've heard the term personal development before, which I'm sure you have, I also want you to be thinking about how do you personally develop? And by which measurement are you making a decision about what needs to be developed? So talk about that as well. So right now, I'm going to share my screen with you, and I want you to take a moment, grab a pen, grab a glass of water, whatever it is that you need, so that you can be prepared for what it is that we're about to discuss today. So let's make sure that you can see my screen. All right, I am screen sharing. Let's go. My name is Kenyatta Turner. I'm the CEO and founder of Freedom Empire Consulting, and I'm also the co-founder and chief behavioral superpowers officer for Dream Smart Academy. You'll actually hear me talking about both of these companies as we go through this workshop. And again, we're going to be speaking about behavioral motivation. Grab a pen, grab a piece of paper. I'm going to have you write some things down. Glass of water so that you are ready to go and you don't have to go anywhere, because this next 60 minutes is going to go fast and I don't want you to miss any of it. Now, the one thing I will tell you is that I'm an outgoing, fast-paced influencer. That is my behavioral superpower style. Basically, one of the things that means is that I talk fast. So I'm encouraging you to listen fast as we start going through this presentation. So let me see if I can get over here so we can go to the next slide. Let's talk about motivation. What does it mean and why is it important? It's a verb, and to use in the context of it being a verb being used with an object, you can also say motivated or motivating. What does that mean? Well, to provide with a motive or a cause, a reason to act, to incite, to impel. So what we're talking about here is, what is the thing that gets you the cause for you to act, for you to incite action, impels you or compels you to do a thing? What is the driving factor behind what it is that you do? That is what we're going to be discussing today. And I want you to think about right now, what is it that already motivates you in your life? Okay, now that's as a verb what we're speaking about, but let's talk about some other states. How about the act or an instance of motivating, right? Providing a reason to act in a certain way, right? As in, I don't understand what her motivation was for quitting a job. We're going straight to the dictionary here because, again, sometimes people will use a word in context, but won't necessarily give the definition of the word. And everybody thinks of words differently, right? So I went straight to the dictionary for this because I wanted us to be clear on what it was that we're discussing when it comes to behavioral motivation and why it's so important that you understand yours. So number two, a state or condition of being motivated, having a strong reason to act or accomplish something. As in, we know these students have a strong motivation to learn. The condition of being motivated. So think about the kinds of things that put you in a condition of being motivated. That's what I want you to think about there. And then lastly, something that motivates, induces an incentive. Clearly, like a company's long-term motivation is profit. As an example, what is the incentive to motivation? These are the things that I want us to think about as we go through this presentation. Now, oftentimes people like to go online and Google search for motivational quotes, inspirational quotes. And I love doing that because I love quotes myself. And this presentation is not going to be about giving you quotes, because here's a whole bunch though, if you really need some, right? Go type in motivational quotes into Google, and it's going to come up with all kinds of things that people put out there that are words or phrases or affirmations that are designed to motivate you. But why does it work? Why is it motivating to have that type of situation where you need something to put in front of you that you can read on a daily basis or throughout the day that helps keep you motivated? Why do these quotes work? I want you to think about that as well. What is it about them that you're like, yes, I'm going to put that right here on my computer, or I'm going to hang it on my wall. I'm going to send it in a text. I'm going to post it on social media. This is just one way to go about this process. However, I said I'm not going to give you a ton of quotes throughout this presentation, but I am going to give you a couple. I'm going to tell you right now what my favorite one is. You can take a screenshot of this and put this on your computer or send it to someone, because this is the truth of the matter, and this is where this conversation is going. Here's the quote. No one is coming to save you. No one. Now, when I say this to some people, I get different reactions. Some people agree right away. Others go, wait a minute. This sounds pretty lonely. This sounds like there's no one out there or no entity out there that is looking out for me and is there to support me. That's not what I'm saying with this quote. From a spiritual standpoint, sometimes people also will say, well, wait a minute, Kenyatta, actually, I am going to be saved. I'm not disagreeing with you in that regard. But what I am saying, that even if you are of the belief that there is something bigger than you in this world, this universe, that's going to come and save you, I can almost guarantee that there's still something you have to do. And that's what I'm talking about here right now. The idea that no one is coming to save you, because everybody cares more about themselves than they care about you, as you should care more about yourself than anybody else. Why do I say that? People tell me, Kenyatta, that seems so selfish. Well, it is in a sense, because you should be selfish, because your goals and dreams are unique to you. No one cares more about your goals and dreams than you. Actually, no one should care more about your goals and dreams than you. How can they? How can your goals and dreams be more important to someone else than they are to you? It's hard to even articulate our dreams and goals to other people. They don't always understand, and they don't need to, but you need to believe. You need to have faith, and you have to do the work to make it happen. Now, it doesn't mean that others can't help and support you in that process, but what if they left? Would those still be your goals and dreams? That's what you need to ask yourself. And that's really what I mean about no one's coming to save you. Someone told me once, Kenyatta, no one can eat your sandwich for you. And I'm like, yes, that's so true. They can make the sandwich. They can bring me the sandwich. They can cut it up into little pieces. They can even put it in my mouth and make my mouth chew the sandwich, but they can't absorb it. And they can't get the nutrients from the sandwich for me and then give it back to me. No, my body has to process that. Again, no one's coming to save you. So that's a motivational quote. If you wanted one, there's the first one that you can put in your information right now, because that is huge. It's a huge concept that I want you to think about as we go through this presentation, and you think about where you fit into the equation of motivation. Whose job is it to motivate you? Here's something I'm going to share with you. Organizations often find themselves in situations where they're hiring people who aren't successful. They're putting in through the process of training and development and onboarding, but they're not able to be successful in that job or at that organization. This is true, I think, for all areas of life, not just when you're hiring someone. And here's why. As you can see down here at the bottom, this particular study was done by Leadership IQ, and they surveyed over 5,000 hiring managers from all different sectors and people who are responsible for hiring over 20,000 employees. So they have a lot of data that goes into what is it that happens when someone gets hired for a position, and ultimately them being able to find success in that role. Well, you can see the data right here. These are the things that they realize are the reasons why people fail at work. And I can tell you that this is also about failing at business and relationships, in family matters, life, business, career, it doesn't matter. Because if you think about it, look at the pie chart over there, right? Coachability, 28% is one of the reasons why organizations fail and people fail. That's huge. The largest thing is coachability, which is the ability to accept and implement feedback from bosses, colleagues, customers, and others. This is anyone in your life, okay? Emotional intelligence, right? Being able to regulate your emotions. First, you have to be aware of them. Then you have to be able to regulate them. So what does that mean? What does that mean for you when you think about your emotions and the ability to regulate it? Because emotional intelligence is 25% of the reason why people fail at work. And like I mentioned, also in relationships and at home and in careers and businesses. Okay. Next, motivation, which we're going to talk about, which is sufficient drive to achieve one's full potential and excel in the job, whatever the job is, 19%. Then we've got temperament, the attitude and personality suited at that particular job or that work environment. And then lastly, technical skills, which is the smallest percentage. Why is that? It's because it doesn't matter whether you know how to do the actual technical component of the job. Let's say driving a forklift. I can teach someone to drive a forklift, but I can't motivate them. I can't teach them to be emotionally intelligent. That's something they have to want for themselves and actively participate in making happen. I can even teach them and give them a training on it, like I'm doing to you right now, but I can't do that work for you. There's something different that happens when it comes to the emotional capacity of a human being and how they think and how they feel and how they behave. That is what we call behavioral superpowers. That's what I'm going to talk to you about in a moment. But behavioral motivation is also tied into that. Oftentimes, organizations make the mistake of thinking that it's their responsibility to motivate their staff. We as parents, if you're a parent, which I am not, you might think that it's your job to motivate your child to do certain things in their life. If you're a teacher, you may think it's your responsibility to motivate your students. It is not. Motivation is internal. It literally is an intrinsic thing that comes from within. But how do you encourage someone to be motivated? What's your part in that? Well, I'm going to share with you some things you may want to consider as you think about motivating yourself. And then ultimately, if your role is to motivate others, what does that look like? And accidentally went the other way. So I already told you about no one's coming to save you, right? So let's talk about, and why do I keep going the wrong direction? Here's what we're going to get into right now. I want to help you open your mind by thinking about this quote here. This is my own, actually. To know yourself and your clients, you must first sacrifice the illusion that you already do. And I can have you replace the word clients with your customers, your family, your employees, people in your life that you're doing business with or working with or in a relationship with in some kind of way, okay? So to know yourself and your clients, you must first sacrifice the illusion that you already do. So what does that look like? Sacrifice the illusion that you already do. This is because I'm asking you in this moment to have a growth mindset. I'm asking you to open your mind to the possibilities of things that you may not have considered before about yourself and who you are and why you are. So before we dig in, I want you to open your mind to me. Who is Kenyatta? I told you I'm an outgoing, fast-paced influencer. That is my behavioral superpower style. That is who I am all day, every day. Okay, 91% of the time, that's what you're going to get from me. I'm extremely results focused. I'm absolutely abstract and creative in how I think about things. I'm fast-paced, like I mentioned, which means I'm not very patient. I am also extremely flexible and spontaneous. I love freedom. That is key value system for me. And I'm very daring. Like I will jump off of that cliff, right? And influencer is my behavioral superpower identity. There's 10 archetypes. One of them is called an influencer. And I do not mean anything to do with social media influence, okay? I got like 2 followers and you might be one of them. So it's not about social media influence. It's about the word in the context of what it means, right? This was an archetype that was developed over 30 years ago, and it happens to be called an influencer. Now, this is a picture of me here at a conference by Brendan Bouchard, an influencer summit that he had. He calls it the Influencer Summit. I thought it was so cool that it was called influencer, because I'm like, that's my behavioral superpower style. So of course I needed to make sure I took a picture in me in front of that step and repeat. So who am I and what am I, right? So I'm the co-founder of Dream Smart Behavioral Solutions. I'm also the behavioral superpowers I am the chief behavioral superpowers officer for Dream Smart Behavioral Solutions. I'm the CEO and founder of my own company, Freedom Empire Consulting, which I mentioned earlier. And I am a keynote speaker, international best-selling author, executive coach. I'm a master trainer. I've hosted radio shows and podcasts. I'm a mastermind facilitator, and I've participated in several books, but one of them I'm excited to mention here is called The 8 Qualities of the Exceptional Black Woman in Life and Business. I was honored actually to write the introduction to that book, which was a collaboration with several other women who all wrote about what these 8 qualities were. But I wrote about the introduction from a behavioral lens, because ultimately, without the behavioral component and awareness of it, you're still going to apply that to all of those 8 qualities. So I love writing. I love sharing information about behavior. And this is my jam. Right now, we're about to get into my jam, right? We're just talking about behavioral science and the magic of self-awareness and how that can help you discover, uncover, and unleash your behavioral superpowers upon the world. And it also drives the motivation that I mentioned before. I'm a certified behavioral superpowers coach and actually created a program that certifies other behavioral superpowers coaches. So just a little bit about me before we jump into this. But seriously, I wanted you to open your mind to some of these things and some of the things I'm going to talk about. And these other companies have done the same things. These are a few of my clients right now. And the reason I share this with you is because I want you to see that not only do I work and have the ability to use this tool to help you become behaviorally motivated at a one-on-one basis, but also I work with large organizations and enterprises who are looking to share this information with their teams to increase their productivity by 70%, their employee engagement by 40%, and ultimately their client engagement and revenue by 23%. That's what happens when people become behaviorally motivated. And these are some of the companies that have had the experiences that know what it is I'm talking about. So how do we do this? There's a framework that I created called Behave. And I'll go through each one of these for you right now so you can get a sense of why I speak the way I speak and why this workshop is designed around behavior. What does this mean? Well, first, behavior matters is my hashtag. You can see it right there where my name is. You can see it right here in the corner of the thing. Hashtag behavior matters. Why? Is because all day, every day, you can't get away from it. You can't escape it. You might as well embrace it and face it, right? Because ultimately it drives how you do things. And it also drives how other people do things. So it's important to be aware of behavior. Then, and only then, you have a chance at actually understanding why your emotions go the way they go. The kind of things that will trigger an emotional response from you, you have a much better understanding of if you know your behavior. This gives you the power in order to recognize what needs to be regulated, which is emotional intelligence. Through this process of understanding your behavior, you now have a better lens through which to grow your emotional intelligence. That's the E in behave. The H is holistic healing. Why is this important? We as humans have so much going on. Have you ever been in a situation where you were hurting, where you were confused, where maybe you had low self-esteem, low confidence, where maybe you were going through something that was causing trauma in your life? You're trying to heal from a situation that's happened either physically or mentally. The process of self-awareness is the first step in a holistic healing situation. If you don't have clarity on who you are and why you are, basically what that personal development baseline is, it makes it hard to heal all areas of your life, including physical. You've heard the concept that stress causes physical ailments, and the acceptance and peace and mindset can release a physical ailment. So if you are having challenges with your identity and who you are and why you are, and you're confused about certain things happening in your life and you don't know where to start or where to go from, and you don't understand other people, that can cause ailments of all different kinds. So when we think about emotional wellness, mental wellness, wholeness, we think about health and wellness in general, this process creates a holistic healing situation that ultimately is going to benefit you. Next, actionable awareness. Through this process, I'm going to teach you about behavioral awareness, but give you very specific actions that you could take in order to catch yourself in the moment. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, we like to say. This is what this is about. So not only awareness, but specific actions. Next, visionary thinking. I am a visionary thinker, and I cannot help but ask people the question, are you thinking big enough? Because to think small means to do small things. We want to think big. We want to open our minds. We want to realize the possibilities that the universe has in store for us and find a way to tap into that, tune in, turn on, and tap in to what it is that is available to us. You have to think big in order to do that. And that also comes through this process. And then lastly, which might well be one of the most important, is empathetic energy. What does that mean? If you can understand where someone is coming from, even if that's not you, maybe you've never been in their shoes, but you can relate to what it is they may be going through. You can imagine what it is they may be feeling. Then you then are in a position to have more empathy for that person. And if you do, the energy you put out is going to be one of empathy, and they will feel that. That's going to have them be more relatable to you, build rapport, melt the barriers to communication, and therefore you have a better opportunity of building a stronger relationship in that moment. That only comes from a deep level of self-awareness and then an understanding of others. That's what this process also teaches. So behavior matters, emotional intelligence, actionable awareness, visionary thinking, and empathetic energy. That's basically the framework for what it is that I teach and I coach. And here is another quote for you. I say, become behaviorally and unapologetically you. Once you have an understanding of your behavioral motivation and who you are and why you are, you don't need to apologize for why you show up the way you do. You just want to understand what the baseline is and know whether this is a moment to unleash your behavioral superpowers or a moment to allow someone else to unleash theirs. That's really what this is about. But there's no need for you to apologize for that. Everyone asks the question. This is one of the most Googled questions there is. Who am I? But I want to also invite you to ask yourself the question, why am I? Okay. What are your unique gifts, skills, talents, and abilities? People are always wondering this. This is why people will ask the question, or you'll see people posting about, what are your superpowers? It's a common question, but it's also subjective oftentimes in the way that it's answered. In our world with Dream Smart Behavioral Solutions, we call what our tool behavioral superpowers. It literally is not a subjective situation on identifying your unique gifts, skills, talents, and abilities. It's objective science that's backed with 30 years of research, validated in 125 countries and in 11 different languages. The question of who am I is able to be answered through access of behavioral motivation. So you've probably asked yourself this question before, and it isn't an easy question to answer, but everyone from the stages and the coaches and the trainers will tell you, you need to know who you are. You need to figure out what makes you unique and then build upon that. They're not wrong. They just don't have a way to tell you, but I do. So if you're ready to embrace the behavioral self-awareness that will motivate you throughout your core of your being, then let's go. We're going to start out by me introducing you to what we call behavioral factors. These factors, you already have scores on these factors. You've not even taken the exercise yet, which you might have an opportunity to if you stick around through this workshop. Because right now we're going to talk about the 8 factors that literally dictate how you are motivated, why you show up to work, why you show up to your business, why you show up to your family in the way that you do. What is your incentive? What is your driving desire? That's what we're going to talk about right now. So grab a piece of paper and a pen, because I want you to write down which one of these behavioral factors, or of the behavioral factors, which one you think that you are. So let's get started. The first factor is called the command factor, right? It indicates, and I love this picture, cracks me up. You always, we're playing, just having fun with friends. And this is really funny. The command factor, right? Indicates a person's desire to control the agenda, their willingness to assert, and their need to make decisions. Think about behavioral motivation. Are you motivated to be more take charge, or are you motivated to cooperate? Right? Think of the horse and the rider. The horse has to cooperate. The rider has to take charge, right? And this is just a silly, depiction of that, but you understand what I mean here, right? You can't have both trying to do the same thing. And that causes challenge and conflict when that's happening. So think about it. Write down on your piece of paper right now. Are you more cooperative or are you more take charge when it comes to this command factor, right? And read the words. It's a person's desire to control the agenda, their willingness to assert, and their need to make decisions. Now, you might say to yourself, well, I can kind of do one or the other. And it's true, you probably can. But as soon as this slide up came up, there's probably one that you identified with most. That is probably your behavioral motivation. So then ask yourself, are you in a position right now, let's say with your business or your job or in your relationships, where you're able to do the thing that you're behaviorally motivated to do? Think about that as we go through this. And I want you to think about that for all of these. Where are you right now? Are you in behavioral alignment or misalignment? Okay, that's what this workshop is about as well. So that's factor number one. Factor number two, the people factor. Okay, the people factor. This actually is one of my highest behavioral motivations because I am an outgoing, fast-paced influencer. I mentioned earlier, outgoing. So here it is. The people factor indicates a person's openness and expression, their transparency, and their ease in relating to strangers. I don't know any strangers, actually. As soon as I meet someone, I'm probably going to talk to them, and they're not a stranger for very long because I'm going to get to know them. I'm extremely outgoing. I get energized by being around people. But are you like me, or are you a person who's more reserved, who actually gets drained by being around people, who wants to prefer to be behind the scenes and is more reflective and thoughtful in their process? They're not just going to come out and tell you all your business or all of their business. They're going to sit and watch and wait and decide ultimately who they want to share with before they just walk up and start talking to everyone. Okay. So again, this is behavioral motivation. I'm motivated for opportunities to be where I can talk to people and engage. Are you more like me, or are you someone more like my co-founder of Dream Smart Behavioral Solutions, Jeff? He's much more reserved. He's motivated for the opportunity to not have to be in front of everyone, talking to everyone all the time, right? So write down which one you are, outgoing or reserved, for number two. Number three, the patience factor. Okay, what does this mean? Well, the patience factor really indicates a person's natural pace, their desire for stability, and their need for harmony. Okay, so what's that all about? Now, I mentioned earlier that I am fast-paced, or I'm outgoing and fast-paced influencer. That means as an influencer, which I'll tell you more what that means a little bit later, I'm outgoing, like I mentioned, but I'm also fast-paced. I also mentioned earlier that means I'm not very patient. I'm not wired for patience. I'm wired to be fast-paced and logical, critical, objective. I think fast, I move fast, I speak fast. That's why I mentioned earlier, you better be listening fast. That's who I am 91% of the time. So where do you fall? What's indicates a person's natural pace, desire for stability, need for harmony. I don't desire stability. I'm a change maker. I want to change it up. Why? Because I get bored. So this is, again, where I'm motivated. I'm motivated to be in a situation where things can move quick. Decisions need to be made. Challenging decisions need to be made. I'm comfortable in those environments. That is my superpower, but it can also be my kryptonite if I don't learn or haven't learned to be patient when necessary. Now, I have learned how to be patient through meditation and yoga and mindfulness and understanding, but I also had to get a gauge. What was my baseline? Once I saw the data, I saw the reports, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're way over here, Kenyatta. How hard is it going to be for you to get over here on this side? And if you're the person who's extremely patient, you may find that there's times when you wish you were moving a little faster, right? When you wish that you were more quick paced, maybe you wish you weren't as patient because you find that people in your life might try to take advantage of that patience, right? So it's important to understand which side are you on when it comes to your desire for stability and need for harmony, that natural pace that you're going through. So let's talk about number four, Number 4, the structure factor. The structure factor indicates a person's need for structure, their concern for details, and their desire to prepare. This is not me. Where are you on this? Are you more spontaneous like me or more planned? Right? Like my business partner, Jeff. I'm extremely spontaneous, flexible, freedom. I already told you that. I don't want to be tied down. I'm not going to have my stuff planned out like this picture here. You know, if you looked at my desk, you go, okay, I get it. Right? Doesn't mean I can't be structured and I won't be planned. It just means that I'm not wired for it. I have to create that within myself. I have to find things like the 12-week yearbook to read and study from and put myself in a type of organized manner, because that's not how I'm naturally wired, but I know it's good for me and it helps me be more efficient. Okay. So how do you handle structure? Are you someone who has a need for structure? You want to prepare? You are concerned with details? You've got everything planned out? Do you just jump in the car like me and go on a road trip with a backpack? Or do you have to have a plan and a structure and a schedule before you go? An itinerary. You're motivated to do one of these two things. So I'm asking you again, are you in a position in your job, your life, your family situation, your relationships, where you're allowed to be the one you're behaviorally motivated to be? Or are you in misalignment, which causes frustration, stress, and just unhappiness, right? Behavioral motivation. It ties into every single area of your life and your business. So let's talk about trust. Number 5, this indicates a person's ability to naturally trust others. That's the key word, naturally trust others. Are you more trusting or more skeptical? Either way, you're motivated to be one or the other. People who are more skeptical oftentimes are motivated by doubt. That actually excites them. They will look at a situation and be very questioning and inquisitive. They're looking for the holes in the matrix, okay? And the other people who are extremely trusting just trust that the matrix is all good, right? They believe that people are going to do what they say they're going to do. They give them the freedom to do it. They're not going behind them and checking on them. But sometimes you've heard the phrase, or you may have heard the phrase, inspect what you expect, right? So people who are extremely skeptical and are motivated that way sometimes find themselves in a position where they want to learn to be more trusting. People who are really trusting and motivated to be so may have found themselves in situations where they've been burned and now they have to be more skeptical. There's not a right or wrong. There's not a right or wrong to either of these sides. The key is to figure out which one you are so you know where your baseline is. Okay, now you know when flexing might need to happen in the moment, right? That actionable awareness that we talked about. So that is the trust factor. Think about where you fall on that one. Just a few more to go. Next, the pioneer factor, number 6. This indicates a person's drive to set ambitious goals and to pursue them. Okay, this is how you go about getting things done. The first 5 that I talked about have a lot to do with relationships, how you relate to people when you're planning, getting things organized to deal with people and get things done. This is how you think about career goals, business goals, what it is you want to accomplish in your life and how you go about getting that done. Okay, so the pioneer factor is exactly what you might think, right? Pioneering, you know, they're trailblazers, they're ambitious, usually competitive. You know, are you the person who's more pioneering or are you more content? Are you driven by the idea that there's a hill out there that you need to take that hill and get to the next one after that and keep going and keep going? Or are you more content and go, hey, we took that one hill. We don't need all the hills. I'm good with this hill right here. I want stability. I want harmony, and I'm good. I don't have to go hunting down everything. So are you in a position right now where you're allowed to have that sense of contentment and that satisfaction and that balance that's so important to you? Because you are pioneering, but in a content manner. So do you get to do that? Or are you someone who's extremely pioneering and your role that you're in allows for that? Again, this is how you're motivated. You're motivated to be one of these things naturally. This is what behavioral motivation is all about. Only you have this inside of yourself. No one can give you this. So that's why I say it's no one else's job to motivate you. You have to identify what your driving behavioral factors are, because you may be driven to be risky. You may want a position that allows you to be risky, to not have to worry about all the details of something, to go, you know what? I know this is going to work. Let's make sure we get this opportunity and roll with it. Or are you someone who's like, no way, we're not doing that. We need to mitigate this risk, and let's think about this a different way. The risk factor indicates a person's willingness to take risks, okay, first to take them, but also their ability to tolerate consequences, because someone who's really risky is able to do both. They're going to take the risk and they're okay if it doesn't work. They're usually very positive and optimistic about things because they figure, hey, it's going to work out. And if it doesn't, so what? We'll come up with another way. People who are more cautious, like, wait a minute, we need to make sure this is going to work out. We need to think this through first and figure out a way to make sure it works. So they may not be as quick to take the risk. Doesn't mean they won't, but they're more interested in calculated risks, mitigated risks, if that makes sense. Again, behavioral motivation. So now let's talk about the last factor. The creative factor indicates a person's capacity to be original, creative, and work with new ideas. This is me over here on the creative side, right? That's me. I mentioned earlier, I'm very abstract and I'm very risky. And ultimately, this is like, think about that concept, and you've heard about thinking inside of a box, right? Well, when people think inside of a box, you hear people say, well, think outside of the box. It's because they're saying, be more creative. Don't think within the parameters of what's been given. Well, here's what happens with people with this particular factor. The people who are very creative and abstract, there is no box for them. Their mind is already thinking in abstract terms. So like myself, there might be some dots. I may connect them if I want to. I'm not interested in the box because I'm probably going to change it because I want to paint it purple, okay, or something like that. But people who think inside the box, they're creative too, but within the parameters of the box. They want to know what the structure is first. Then they can go about changing what they feel like needs to be changed, something that's more concrete and tried and true. Whereas me, doesn't matter what was to me or whether it was tried or true, I'm going to want to change it. So that's, again, I'm motivated to be in positions that allows me that creative freedom. Where are you? Are you in behavioral alignment with your creativity or something else going on? Okay, so these are some of the things that I want you to think about, because as we go through the rest of this workshop, it's important to realize that behavior causes 87% of performance issues in life and business. I'll repeat. Behavior causes 87% of performance issues in life and business. And as we go through the rest of this presentation, you'll get a chance to see why this is important and why understanding your behavioral superpowers and your behavioral factors are so important as you think about what it is you want to accomplish in your life and in your business, because you and your behavior are the things that could be causing these performance issues if you don't find yourself where you want to be. If you're not the high performer that you want to be in life and business, it's absolutely due to your behavior. And I'm going to help you figure this out in just a few moments, because here's what I know. How you do anything behaviorally is how you do everything. This ties into going on a road trip, buying groceries, choosing a business partner, choosing a mate, how you fix your bed in the morning, how you follow your morning routine, how you go about the work throughout the rest of the day, what is your evening routine, how you buy a plane ticket. It affects all of this. And like I mentioned earlier, you can't escape it, so you might as well embrace it. Face it and then embrace it, and then learn to unleash it. And that's what we're going to talk about next as we go through this workshop. How does this work? How is it that how you do anything behaviorally is how you do everything? We're going to talk more about that in just a moment. Now let's talk about DreamSmart's Behavioral Science Division. As I mentioned earlier, I am co-founder and Chief Behavioral SuperPowers Officer for DreamSmart Behavioral Solutions. We're basically a behavioral science firm that delivers real-time behavioral management solutions. We use validated behavioral insights that help optimize, enhance, and power human performance. As you can see here on the slide, we have over 30 years of research and experience in this area. Our tools are scientifically validated in 125 countries and 11 different languages. Here's why this is important to you, because as I've been talking about behavioral factors and behavioral identities and what does that mean and how you're wired behaviorally to be motivated, we know that when you take our behavioral exercise, that it has results that are 91% predictable over the long term. Why is that important? A, is that means you only have to take it one time. You do not need to take this exercise multiple times. Why is that important? Is because we are measuring what doesn't usually change. That's key. If you think about personality tests, and there's so many of them, thousands, right? Oftentimes they're measuring what changes over time, which is why they have you take the exercise over and over again every couple of years or so you can get a sense of, oh, this is where I am now. But this exercise measures hardwired behavior. It is literally your innate, unique gifts, skills, talents, and abilities that make up who you are and why you are, and how you have been since about the age of 3. That's who you show up as most of the time. That's why behavioral motivation is so key. These are the things that you want and have always wanted in your life, in your business, in your career. That's why we measure it, and that's why we give you an opportunity and show you how it works for you. So how does this process work? Well, we have a discovery exercise that is what we call a forced choice triad. I'll talk about that in a moment. It's 46 questions, and you get an opportunity to answer. And after you're done, immediately you get results that tells you what your behavioral identity is, as well as what those behavioral factors are, especially the top 2 factors that really make up who you are most of the time. That's called the discovery process. The next process is an uncovering. That's where you can have a conversation with a coach like myself, a master coach like myself, or one of our other certified coaches that will be able to help you walk through your results and help you start learning how to activate. And then ultimately the process of unleashing your behavioral superpowers, that comes once you have a better understanding of the results and what it means, helps you relate to other people so that you really can flex your behavior in the moment to create that optimized situation. So our discovery process is called discover, uncover, and unleash. Now, when we go through this process, it's important to know that I mentioned earlier, you've heard of other behavioral or assessments, maybe you've heard of personality tests. So what makes Dream Smart different? Well, it's like I mentioned before, we're not measuring what changes over time. Many of the other exercises out there, again, have you take the test over and over again because they're measuring what's changed, where ours is not a situational based assessment. It says here, most other assessments measure learned behavior that change situationally, which is powerful if that's what you want to know. But ours is all about that depth. Using that forced choice triad creates an entirely different type of environment. Here's an example of kind of what the exercise looks like to give you that 91% predictability over the long term. So you might have 3 options here: outspoken, sees others' viewpoint, and exerts will. And you might say to yourself, well, I do all of those things. Well, which one are you most and which one are you least? You can only choose most or least, and that means you're going to leave one of them out. Okay, that is a challenge. It says you cannot select the same option for the most and least options, right? You're going to leave one of them out. That process is what you're going to go through with those 46 questions. They'll give you something like well organized, move boldly, and resourceful. And you're going to choose which one is most like you, which one is least like you, and then move on to the other ones. That's the process that leads to that highly accurate, that deep, reliable result that is consistent over the long term. We've mastered the process of doing this, which is really cool. Again, this is your behavioral motivation. This is why you do what you do. Well, when we have people take this exercise, we know that we're measuring over 500 different data points. There's a lot of information that goes into this little 10-minute exercise, which is so cool, because with that, we know we can understand behavioral diversity, behavioral superpowers, communication superpowers, entrepreneurial styles, money temperament. All of that comes from this one exercise. So when you think about motivation, people are motivated by money in different ways. Entrepreneurs are motivated in different ways. People communicate and are motivated to communicate and learn in different ways. So our tool helps someone identify that with this objective science that goes deeper than anything you've ever experienced before. I can guarantee that. So we're super super excited about it. And we've been doing it a long time. And I'm excited to introduce it to you in this workshop right now. And you can use a tool like this, not only for your own personal growth and development, but you can use it to help your clients understanding who they are and how you can best serve them. And if you have a company or organization, you can use it within that field to where you can help your employees become more productive and more engaged, ultimately making your company more money. So just some things to consider when you think about a tool like this. How might it be valuable to you? It can be used in all of these different areas this is a short list. I call it the Behavioral SuperPowers universe. It is vast, it is expanding, and it is infinite. And here you can see some of the places where knowing your behavioral superpowers and your behavioral motivation is so powerful. Remember, I mentioned earlier, team productivity can increase by 70%, employee engagement by 40%, client engagement and revenue by 23%. This is what we know after all the years of using a tool. If a company or organization or a family or a person becomes behaviorally smart, these are the kind of numbers that can come from this. And these are some of the dimensions where we work. As you can see, leadership development, personal development, coaching, hiring, communication styles, classroom management, workforce management or development, systems transformation, accreditation and certifications, financial planning and advising. This is huge. And behavioral motivation plays a part in all of these things. So again, let's talk more about these identities, okay? Earlier, I talked to you about the 8 behavioral factors. I said I'm an outgoing, fast-paced influencer. But what is an influencer? Well, there's 10 behavioral archetypes. I'm going to go through them really quickly for you now so you can kind of get a sense. And I want you to be writing down which one you think you most identify with. So as you see, here's the 10 listed here. We have an adapter, first off. They're like the chameleon. Literally, they can morph into any of these behavioral superpower identities. They can take a little bit from each of them in the moment to fit in where they need to. That is a masterful skill as an adapter. Engagers, they love people. They're wide network of friends, and they want to communicate. They're excellent speakers, and they're going to be the ones moving around wondering, are we having a good time or not, right? That's what they're interested in. And again, what I'm telling you right now is extremely high level, but hopefully you can get a sense of what these words mean and what the style might be that's associated with those words. Community builder, exactly what they do. They build community. They love consensus. They lead with sympathy and empathy. They want people to feel good about what's happening, and they love to bring people together. They're typically very outgoing. Facilitators. My sister's a facilitator. They are the ones that are kind of a cross between, they like to get things done. They're very well organized and task focused, but they make people feel good while it's happening. People don't even know they're being facilitated too when they're working with a facilitator. Next, the initiator. They're like the spark. They're the ones that like to show up, say, this is how it's going to happen, set the tone, set the agenda. They're bold. They're aggressive with their goal setting. They want to get things done. And then they want to move on to do something else. They like to spark things, but then move on to go do something else after that. They don't want to be bogged down by the details. Hence, they like to show up and initiate. Then we have the influencer. That's my style. Typically, we are revolutionary. We're ringleaders. We are visionaries. We have a masterful way of being able to help or deal with the results and the people at the same time. And the word influence is exactly what it means. We have a way of being able to, if we see a vision or a goal, that we can help others see the vision and the goal in such a way to get the support needed to make that happen, or to help people develop in their own way, because we can see things in such a way and then present it in a way that's relative to them. Next, we have the reflective thinker. Reflective thinker is exactly as the name sounds. They are reflective in their thought process. They like details and data. They want to do their own research. They don't like being rushed into making a decision because they want to reflectively think about it. The relationship builder, similar to the community builder, in that building relationships is really important to them. But unlike the community builder, who is really outgoing, the relationship builder tends to be more reserved. They often like to build relationships, fewer relationships that go real deep versus a lot of relationships that are wide, right? So they are really more one-on-one versus one-to-many. Then we have the stylish thinker. I quite honestly think that they are a cross between an engager and a an engager and a reflective thinker, because they're very outgoing. They love working with people and getting ideas and feedback, but they're very meticulous in particular and detail-oriented and analytical. So I think they're a cross between the two of those profiles, the engager and the reflective thinker, I believe creates a stylish thinker. And the last one is the strategist. It's exactly as the word means, or what you would think it is. It is a person, literally, they see strategy, they see it for what it is. They can see the big picture and they're visionaries, but they also can Tetris it together to make it happen in a way that many people don't even view the information. They make excellent project managers, and so many different roles like that, because they are very organized and very impartial about how they go about getting things done. So that's a very high level of the identity. So imagine if you knew this about yourself, but you also knew about the people you were working with, how would those relationships change, right? This right here is another indicator that shows you the 10 behavioral styles that I just mentioned, and how we've got the strategist, initiator, influence, engager, and community builder that are a little more fast-paced. That's how they typically make decisions. The ones here on the bottom oftentimes move a little more carefully. The ones on the right over here oftentimes are focused on relationships, like I mentioned, and the ones on the left are going to be focusing on the results. And then up here, you get down a little bit more into their financial temperament and their communication style. You can see the quadrants here, the spender and the lifestyle. The cautious and stability is this quadrant, and the saver and information is over here in this quadrant. So you might have a speculation of where you think you fall in these particular areas, but it's more important to actually get the information, take the exercise so that you know for sure. Then you know for sure where you fall on these factors. So remember, I mentioned there's 8 factors: command, people, patient, structure, trust, pioneer, risk, and creative. We already covered all of those. I asked you to think about where you take charge or cooperative. Right? We talked about each one of those. It's really important to kind of identify where you might fall, because this is what you're motivated to be. This is already who you are, and you want to be able to be in that space as much as possible. So here's what's important to know. Okay, me and my mom both are influencers. It happens to be both of our styles, but we have different fingerprints. We've grown up in different places. We have different life experiences, expectations, environments, passions, and values. That's why there's no two influencers that are alike, because of the fingerprints and those behavioral factors. We're not motivated by the exact same thing, even though we're both influencers, okay? But we have things that we can tell you with this information, like communication, learning style, selling style, buying motivation. It literally goes on and on. This is my actual, all of my 8 factors revealed. You could have a report like this as well that tells you how much more are you take charge or cooperative. I'm really outgoing. I'm not reserved. I'm very fast paced, very spontaneous, a little bit more trusting than skeptical. I trust my gut on that. Little more, I love my balance. I'm also a pioneer, but I'm much more balanced when it comes to that. And I'm risky and creative. Okay, this is things I already told you before, but this is an example of some of the data. Again, I'm wired to be that. This is important to know when you're working with the 10 behavioral styles that, yeah, they may be more spontaneous if they're over here. They may be more cooperative if they're here, or more reserved and planned, or more take charge and fast paced. You can speculate these things, but it's really the act of taking the exercise to find out exactly what the scores would be for you, what you're motivated to do. So remember, we talked about motivation, this act or instance of motivating or providing a reason to act in a certain way. We talked about it being a state or a condition of being motivated, and what's that reason, or the incentive. It's all tied to your behavior. You can't get away from that. And that's what I really want you to take away from this particular exercise. And as we wrap up, I want to share with you this concept called ikigai, if you've not heard of this. As you're thinking about your behavioral motivation and what's really important to you, what your purpose is, okay? This process here is a Japanese concept. It says referring to having a direction or purpose in life, providing a sense of fulfillment to a person, and towards which they can take actions, giving them satisfaction and a sense of meaning, hence motivation, okay? And if you look at this little Venn diagram right here, you can see that this circle here is doing what you love. This is what the world needs. This is what you can get paid for and what you're good at. Learning your behavioral motivation helps you figure all of this out, okay? Because in the center of all of those is your ikigai, right? the mission, the vocation, the profession, the passion, it all comes from what you're behaviorally wired to do. It comes from that motivation. And if you look at this Venn diagram about the Ikigai and you see that one of these circles is not overlapping, there's a gap, right? Maybe you have the light, but you don't have the money. Maybe you're excited, but you have a sense of uncertainty. Maybe you're comfortable, but you feel empty, or satisfied, but feel useless, right? The whole point is to find your Ikigai, where all of these things are that you've been able to discover: what you love, what the world needs, you can get paid for it, and you're good at it. That helps you find your actual behaviorally wired motivation. When you understand how to put it in context with something like this Ikigai, you would still be looking for what you're good at and what you really love and what the world needs, but you're already wired for that. It's just a matter of discovering it, okay? So think about what your Ikigai is and write this down. Take a picture of this. Give some thought and some meditation on this, because ultimately that's a great segue or a great pathway for you finding your true self and who you are and what you're meant to do. And the last thing I'm going to tell you is I want to give you a gift. I want to give you access to what I call my behavioral self-awareness and personal development checklist. As I mentioned before, if you do not know where you're starting from, how do you know where you're going? People talk a lot about self-awareness, but they don't really know how to identify who they are. They talk a lot about personal development, but they don't really know what they want to develop and from which they're going to start the development process. So if you use your phone, put your phone up here to the QR code, go to this website, and you'll be able to put in your name and your email, and I will email you this behavioral self-awareness and personal development checklist. I think it's a great place for you to start the process by doing the self-evaluation to figure out where you are and from which you need to go in your own behavioral awareness. And as I mentioned, again, thank you so much. My name is Kenyatta Turner. I'm an outgoing, fast-paced influencer, CEO and founder of Freedom Empire Consulting, and co-founder and Chief Behavioral SuperPowers Officer for Dream Smart Behavioral Solutions. There's my contact information, Kenyatta at freedomempireconsulting.com. You can also connect with me on all the socials at Kenyatta Turner. And this is the book that I mentioned earlier. I just wanted to bring that back to your attention. If you're interested in that book, email me and let me know. It is called The 8 Qualities of the Exceptional Black Woman in Business and Entrepreneurship. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And remember, #behavior matters. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. And let me just put this right back here. Make sure you get your gift. See you later.